Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the Future History Project. This time, it's the sixth and final book of the Isaac Asimov's Robots in Time series, written by William F. Wu. This time, it is Invader. Let's see if I can get it without too much glare. Invader, published in 1994. And again, as I've said, it's it is the first commissioned non-Asimov books in the Asimov universe or robot universe. Um, well, that's debatable, but we'll get to that eventually. Maybe not so much in this video. But as we found out, it's set in 2140, the whole series. There are cities run by multiplex or a robot, a governor, and this one is the Mojave Center, an underground city in the Mojave Desert, and he is what they call a Gestalt robot. He's made up of six other robots sort of melded together, but he can split up into his six counterparts, and each one has a specialty in running or the city security, administration, that kind of thing. And there are a number of these around the world. The robots were created by Wayne Nystrom, but they've all sort of shut down. There's been a fault of some sort, and they've had conflicts with their three laws of robotics. And the MC governor, the Mojave Center governor, realizes this is happening. He doesn't want to get into this glitch. So he sort of makes sure he doesn't speak to any humans or any other robots. But then it's getting worse, so he splits himself into his six component parts, and each of the component robot flees through time. There is a machine in the Bohung Institute that is for miniaturization, for industry, for surgery, that type of thing. It can miniaturize. So, but he tweaks it a little bit that he can go through time with it. So, without telling each other where they're going, they all pick different places, and poof, they go back in time. But they also miniaturize themselves. And thinking that he'll just stay there, throughout time and just not bother with anybody. However, there was a couple problems with this. Miniaturization is not forever. It only lasts for about 24, 48 hours after they arrive in the historical time period. But also, too, it changes their fundamental atomic structure, that when they do eventually arrive at the time roughly of when they've left the present 2140, they explode in a nuclear conflagration, and this happens pretty well every time. So we got our team with Hunter, a survivalist, Steve, and Jane, a roboticist, and the token the token historian, or in the first case a paleontologist that goes back in time to nab MC. So in this case, it's MC6, but also at the same time, Wayne Nystrom is going back because he doesn't trust the governing committee that runs the cities and oversees the robots, because they think that they'll destroy his career and blame everything on him. He wants at least one of the robots to examine and correct before it goes to the committee. So they're in hot pursuit each time in each time period. And there's all sorts of shenanigans they get into. And on every occasion, and even in this one, Hunter's team wins. And Hunter is a specialized robot that says it's been built to search for these. But it's kind of hard to build a robot that quickly, so there's a bit of a, scratch your head going, about that. But he is specialized. He's got better hearing, better eyesight. He's very tall. He's very big. He's 6'6". He's of European look, Northern European look, blonde hair, blue eyes, I think. But he can change his appearance as well, change his height. We've seen a few problems with that. That if he drops a foot or a foot and a half, somehow his clothes still fit. And his clothes are not part of the robotic body. So I'm not sure how that happens. But also he can change his fingers into tools or to go into a light socket and get power. They have microscopic solar power cells in their skin to replenish. They do apparently need fluid occasionally because of sweat and stuff. However, then they don't have a smell. It's not, flesh, human, human DNA, or well, possibly, but augmented DNA if it is. Their skin skin covering, I guess you'd call it. But it's not like pure human. Anyway, so in volume 6, excuse me, they go back to late 5th century AD England, not too long after the Romans have pulled out. Now they go to Cadbury Castle area in Somerset, and this is the sort of legendary and historic home of King Arthur. So, as told, basically, the biggest story is Thomas Mallory's Le Morte d'Arthur. That's something I really want to reread again. It's like the previous book, it was Marco Polo, and this one is the Thomas More's Le Morte d'Arthur. And again, I really kicked myself for not, a couple of years ago, buying those as penguins, when I bought a whole bunch of other penguins and I never bought those. But now, after rereading these two stories, I want to reread those books. I don't have them. Anyway, so they meet Arturus, which is the historic, possibly, basis for King Arthur. And they're fighting the Saxons that are invading into the land of England. Every spring they go on campaign. So Hunter and his team with the new historian Harriet of the period wind up there, but Wayne is also there. But this time he has kidnapped Jane, so he's been traveling with the kidnapped Jane, the Hunter's roboticist, and Ishihara, the other robot that was supposed to, take Wayne Nystrom as prisoner when he showed back up at the Bohong incident. But Wayne is a very good roboticist, so he talked him around using the 3 laws of robotics. But there is still conflict there because Ishihara wants to protect Jane as well as Wayne, and Wayne just says, forget about her, go get MC, and there's conflicts back and forth. So Harriet sort of infiltrates the palace and makes friends with none other than Guinevere, or the historic sort of Guinevere, who hopes to marry Arturus, King Arthur. And she's a bit of an oddity because she's in her 40s, and they're sort of surprised that she, that she looks so good for being 40s, because that's about the maximum age, or the general maximum age for people at that time in their early 40s. But she gets a little sort of she falls in love with the period because this is what she has always studied, and she loves the period. So she tells Hunter and Steve that she wants to stay. She doesn't care. She just wants to stay in that period. But after a while, she realizes these people are airheads. Guinevere is self-obsessed, self-absorbed. Don't care about anything else, and just an airhead, and there's no intellectual stimulation for her. But Hunter and Steve are looking for MC6, and they join. Why not the with new recruits? The army, the cavalry, sort of, because at this time the Celts there they were riding horses, while the Saxons were on foot. I'm not sure how accurate that is from my reading of the period, but go with it. It's so they're training. They get the horse. They get their armaments. Leather armor instead of metal. And again, this is not too long after the Romans have left. It's sort of potentially within living memory. The Romans had left. It could be somebody that would be a bit older that would remember them and possibly fought with them. So they have the techniques. The culture, the Roman culture has been left in a sense with the more upper class, indigenous peoples there. So they find out that MC is sort of, they're going on campaign, and he's joined the wagon train, the support crew for the campaign, and it's mostly raw recruits and the palace guard that go off because they're waiting for all the veterans to come in, and they know they're going to meet the Saxons, and Ishihara, they pop in again, but without going back to the Bohung Institute. So they pop up, with their garb that they had previously from China, and with not knowing any of the language or anything. So Ishihara learns again quickly. So he's the interpreter, and they meet a small sort of shepherding family outside of the Cadbury Tor, and befriends them and helps them. Ishihara splits a lot of wood for them, and they travel into the village and back and forth. Meanwhile, Hunter, Harriet, and Steve take these, dream courses that they wake up and they know the language back, front, and center, which would be so cool to be able to do that. So they're infiltrating that way and trying to find things, but MC6 is, he's part of the support crew, and Hunter sort of sees them, but because the leader of the support crew won't allow them to approach him because they think that most soldiers think that they're lazy, the support crew, so he's very protective apparently. So they have to sort of pull back a little bit because Hunter is afraid of the chaos theory of history, where if there's if they confront people too much and there's fighting, or if they disappear in front of them, it could change the course of history and change their present, the future. So they pull back. Meanwhile, Wayne isn't too interested in that. He just wants results like this. But Ishihara, being the robot, is the staying force. And it's sort of like a plot device because I think William F. Wu all of a sudden found through thing that, that Wayne Nystrom wouldn't care about any of this stuff and would just, wreak havoc on things. So how do you limit that, and how do you explain the changes? If you want to go there, it becomes too complicated. So put another robot there that limits his effects on history. Works, but it sort of sticks out like a sore thumb, But MC Governor, approaches Arthur and says, peace, peace, speak to the, enemy and work things out, and they also don't want that because, Hunter and that, because, this battle has to go ahead. It did go ahead. If they did make peace, then it would change the course of history. But then that creates a bit of a problem because Hunter and Ishihara know that, that if they did stop the battle, they would immediately save human lives. And that's, that's law one, the first law of robotics. So they do have an internal conflict, and that's throughout all the novels. There's this internal conflict of how much to do and what little to do, but Hunter sort of internalizes and verbalizes that he's prioritizing basically for humanity but also prioritizing the protection of the humans that are in his care first of all, and then but there still is internal conflict with this. But yeah, so there's lots of little things, but at the end they catch MC6. And remember, as I said, that as MC6, through history, if he stayed in that period, that timeline, and as he reached their present of 2140, he'd blow up. See, Hunter gets injured in a fight with some Saxons. He gets his shoulder, like a spear through his shoulder. And he realized that there's some shielding that's damaged, that if he goes back to the time, he'll explode. Or it changes in time, I guess, in history. Because there's a flaw that's happening too many times for history. So, but he says, he can talk MC6 through of how to fix him and reshield him and stuff like this. So that happens. And then they go back to the present time along with Nystrom. Steve has to play a little bit of a game because he gets MC6 to shut himself down almost, and Hunter shut himself down in order for him to deal with Nystrom in a bit of a violent way, not kill him, but use violence. And he knew that if the robots were around, they'd prevent it. So he does this, otherwise. So Nystrom's injured a little bit by a hit on the head. So anyway, they go back to the time. So they reunite all the robots, and Hunter tells the governing committee that he's completed it, but they want more information, and he says he can't under the first law of robotics because he doesn't want other humans to know there is time travel. So he's got to dismantle that bit of the of the device, so it's not a time travel thing anymore. And he wants all the humans not to say anything. He tells them, well, there'll be no evidence that it can be done, so therefore whatever you say, you're going to look like a crackpot. But they all figure, okay, well, they've had the experience of the past. They've gained some insight. They know where to look for actual evidence now. So they're all happy with this, happy endings. And he also helps Nystrom out a little bit, Hunter does, by the committee saying, please, enlist his help because he created these. He can help correct all this. And there's inconsistency because I'm sure at the first one there was a bit of a mystery of whether the committee, but this could have been within the Mojave Center's governor's sort of altered brain, that there was an issue with conspiracy in that, but they didn't really deal with this at all. That it was just if it was there, if I did correctly remember that, it was just dropped. The other problem is that Hunter, he says that with his shoulder it's like he's unshielded, that he would explode. So he's potentially a ticking bomb in the present of 2140. That if anything happens to his shielding, he'll explode. They never explained how that changed, yeah, and it's kind of weird, but there's a bit of a romance thing there because all throughout the thing, Steve has been and Jane have been growing a little close together because they're the ones that have remained since the first mission. So at the end, Jane goes off with him to a shack in the desert to spend some time with him. So, and Hunter, dismantles the thing and tells the robots and everything, don't tell anybody anything about this, and he's hoping that nobody else will rediscover the thing that's happened. So that's basically where it ended, and as I said, like throughout, there's a lot of discussion about the 3 laws of robotics. I'm now working through week 14. Yeah, it's week 14. This is week 13, part 2, that I'm doing now. But the week 14, there's short stories again. And there's one that actually is very good about the 3 laws of robotics. We'll get to that. I think I'll have to do a specific video on that one in the next couple days. But it's sort of, it brings in stuff that is relevant in this series too. So I think it was instrumental, maybe in William F. Wu writing this. But yeah, overall, they're about 160, 170 pages each. So we're talking 6 books, about 1,000 pages. It was overdone. And there's 2 other series that are similar to this that are coming up. Well, Robots and Aliens and Robot City, I think it is, that we'll be doing back to back. So it'll be 6 weeks there of this kind of thing. I think they're back to back, but we're a few weeks away. And one thing that I'll say here, but I'll say it again in an update. I put out a list that I think week 16, week 15 is okay. Week 16 are some short stories, 3 of Asimov and 3 from Foundation's Friends. Week 15 is the Bicentennial Man by Asimov, the novella, and then the novel that was written with Robert Silverwood, Positronic Man, and then Nemesis. See, if anybody's wondering, Nemesis is not, it even says, Asimov says in the introduction, it's not part of the Robot or the Foundation series. But he says, but he might very well write some connecting things to do this. So I wanted to reread this as well, and it fits in. It fits in. Like there's no direct connections to it, but it fits in. So that's week 16. Week 17 is Caves of Steel, and then week 18 is the start. No, Caves of Steel. What's there? The Naked Sun, and then the Mirage, the little short story, the Danielle and Elijah Bailey short story. But then I've got then it's Robots of Dawn. And then that's 19. Then week 20 again, I put down Nemesis. So that was a mistake, the duplication. Nemesis should be 16. So what we're going to do is extend, because Robots of Dawn is big. It's about 400 and some pages, if not longer. That'll be stretched over 2 weeks. Then after that is like week 22 officially is starting the Robots and Aliens. So either you can get a jump on Robots and Aliens or take 2 weeks, or it's another week to catch up. So I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm leaving it there, but it's also helpful to me. So in hindsight, my screw up actually has worked, I think. So it's a catch up week in many ways. So I should be fine by then, getting caught up. Because this week we're in the middle of, or the beginning of week 17 at the moment, officially. So I am now working on week 14. So hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of this week, or beginning of next week, that I'm pretty well up to speed. But in videos, I might be a little behind because I'm doing one a day. I don't want to, that's flood enough, I figure. But anyway, any questions, do email me or sound out in the comments. I will do an update again regarding all this, about the mix-up between Nemesis. I don't think too many had seen the duplication, but it was a duplication I made myself because I did send it out to a few people, the complete list. And I will do the complete list again on the right up to the end of time, because it's going to be just before Christmas, but we're finished here. So it is long. It's too long for a readathon, really, for BookTube. Several months is usually too long, but this was something that was special, and I wanted to give it a try. And things like this are happening because people have lives. I don't really have a life, but I got ill again, and it may happen again. So I may, so we'll see what happens, how it goes. But I'm hoping everything goes a little more smoothly from now on. Anyway, if you've stayed with us through the 6 Robots in Time, I thank you. And for those that didn't, that's perfectly fine. Week 14 has Isaac Asimov stories again. and from there on out until week 20. And then from week 20 to week 30, basically, is, or week 21 to week 30, is non-Asimov stuff. So that's going to be a long slog. So I do apologize for that. But once we get done that, then it's clean sailing. It's pretty well, 99% of it is going to be Asimov. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a good week so far, and I will see you next time, BookTube.